Hello, I'm Chris Rhodes with Handgun Hunting Afield. Today we're going to go over our expectations and what should they be. We're starting out handgun hunting. Roughly 3 years ago, I had to reset my expectations when I took my wife from zero, where she'd just basically been playing with a handgun on the range, to 3 years later, she took her first game animal, a cow elk at roughly 60 yards with a 44 Magnum. And it had been a long time since I taught someone to do this. So it let me recalibrate where I think we should be and think about it a little bit. And there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet where people are claiming to do all kinds of things with a handgun that seem impossible, and frankly, most of them are. So we're going to show some reasonable expectations of what you'd expect. I'm going to go through my basic practice scenario. I'm getting ready to start prairie hunting for deer and antelope and such. When I'm prairie hunting antelope and deer, generally what I do is you spot them at distance. Then you use some kind of washout or a ditch or whatever to get closer to them, stay behind a hill, and then you pop that hill, pop over the top of it to shoot at them. And generally, that ends up having you in the prone. The reason why you'd stay in the prone is, one, you're more stable, and two, you're out of sight, out of mind. You're low to the ground. You're not making a big silhouette when you pop that hill. And it gives you a very stable platform to shoot and shoot farther more accurately. At the end, we'll also go over how you can adapt these kind of positions to your tree stand hunting, because I know a lot of you guys are hunting back east side of tree stands. I started out hunting that way. And we're going to show how that goes. And we're going to be doing some tree stand hunting later this season, so do us some good to talk about that as well. But I want you to have realistic expectations when you're starting out. The biggest first step there is put the rifle away and leave it at home. You got to focus on one thing. So without any further ado, I'm going to get some cameras set up here. We're going to be shooting prone over here. You're going to have one hopefully looking at my position. I'm a low budget operation here, so you got to deal with my camera setup. One looking at my position and one looking downrange at targets. And I'm going to call out where I think I should be as my training progresses. So stand by and we'll get right to shooting. All right, so once again, it's just like I stocked up out of the bottom, out of a ditch. And my first target up here is at 60 yards. Then I have one at just over 100, and then one at 146. All right, so first up, when I come out and shoot prone, I'm going to want some kind of support under my gun. That's where this Coltec biddy bag comes in. It works great. If you try to use bigger bags where you're going to bury the gun into them, like some huge big pellet bag, and you're going to bury this gun, one, you're going to blow your bag up. Two, you're going to change point of aim, point of impact, unless you shoot that way all of the time. All right, you have to shoot all the time that way, or say, then I go to shoot freehand, it's going to change my zero. My zero stays the same, resting the butt of the gun. I'm also using extended grip. In this case, it's a nil. I could use a Hogue, whatever. So we'll go over more of this stuff at the end about the gear. And I'm just using ultra dot red dot. You don't have to have magnified optics to shoot distance. You can do this with iron sights, but as lighting changes, so does your the way you reference the sights with your eyes. And you're gonna have to practice in all different kinds of lighting situations to be able to use iron sights with light on your left, right, forward, back, and that's gonna be the sun. So you're gonna have somewhere you can shoot in all those different situations and practice that to see how it impacts what you're hitting out there. All right, so I'm gonna get the downrange camera going here, the cell phone, so we can record this and cut our dot on. So in my first year, I'd expect to be able to hit a 60-yard target. That's this first target out here. It's 60 yards. Get a little more brightness. All right, nice clean trigger break. Follow through, letting the gun come back smoothly, the same way every time. Now a 100-yard target is a more challenging target for us with a handgun. So as we're getting out here farther, I mean, just a thousandth of an inch off with the muzzle can be inches down range. So just this slight tweaking of the gun causes a lot of movement down range. So we need to have a perfect trigger pull, perfect sight picture on the target, and perfect follow through afterwards the farther we go out. There we have it. There's our 100-yard target. So our next target here is 150 yards. I've dialed 5 minutes of drop on the optic. At 150 yards with any revolver, any cartridge, you can have the slightest puff of wind is feet of wind drift. So you're going to have to be in tune with your ballistics. You're going to have perfect trigger pull, perfect follow through after the shot, perfect sight picture, all that stuff. This probably is not achievable your first or even your second year of handgun hunting to be able to do this in the field and be confident taking game at 150 yards. So all that stuff has to be perfect to do that 150-yard shot like that. You have to have the perfect trigger pull, the perfect follow through after the shot, the perfect sight picture. You got to know your wind call. You have to have some way to compensate for your drop where you can hold high. That's one way. You know, if you know what your holdovers are going to be, you can have a reticle, you can have something you can dial. You need some way to compensate. There's a lot going on there. So stand by, we'll get back over here and we're going to go over some of this gear and stuff in detail and help you figure out what you need to get you in the field. So let's recap this stuff and go over a little bit of our expectations here. So once again, we had a 60, a 100-yard target, and roughly 150-yard target. Those are all reasonable targets at different levels in your training, all right? So we got to just ignore what some of the internet yahoos say about, like once again, it's brought up to me about someone taking elk with a 454 at 300 yards with iron sights at whim. That's not happening, all right? That just raised the BS flag. Is it possible? It's possible. Probability, pretty slim. That's a whole lot of drop. I doubt they realize how many yards of drop that is that far out. Let's say that first year, get to where you're solid and under field conditions, you can hit that 60-yard target. What we didn't show here was freehand shooting. I got some of that on the web too. But freehand shooting, my first year goal would probably be 25 yards freehand hitting that same target. That'd be reasonable. All right. My second year goal, or it could possibly happen my first year, but more likely it's second year, maybe a little later down, be freehanded at 60-yard target and supported at 100. Then as we get on out there, a couple more years down the road, maybe our third year, maybe a little farther down, that 150-yard target from support should be very doable. That 100-yard target freehand, it's going to take everything we have, but we should be able to do that, you know, as we get farther down the road. You know, there's a lot of factors in there, and your ability, your equipment, the amount of time you put on the range, so forth. But so let's talk about our shooting gear here. The most important thing is we always want to shoot supported when we can. So when you saw me shooting off this bag in the prone is the foundation position. Not shooting off the bench. I don't even want to see, you don't even want to zero off the bench. I'd rather see you zero in your field positions than off the bench. Just different things happen on the benches, whether the bench is flexed or whatever. But this bag here, you saw me use it prone, it'd be the same thing if I was shooting off a log, rock, whatever else. I'd rest that bag, rest the butt, and shoot. Another way I found to use it for your tree stand guys, or if you're shooting against the fence or whatever. So on my offhand, which is my left hand, placing the loop of this Coltac biddy bag over my middle finger and flopping it over. You may use a different finger to get it the right height depending on the size of your hand. Then I make my grip like so, just like normal. And this bag then pushes into the shooting rail, the fence, whatever horizontal support I have, and I'm pushing into it, and I'm staying supported and getting more stable. There's a lot of ways to use this bag. We talked about the big bags a little bit. I find these to be cumbersome, so if I'm hunting a prairie like this out here or in the mountains or whatever, I'm hiking around with it, this has to be strapped on my pack. It's not readily accessible. This can go in my pocket. Hunting a tree stand, it's probably on the floor so it doesn't fall out of the tree stand. More movement to get it set up, more noise. Also, once again, like I was saying over there, if you're taking a gun, you're resting it in the bag, you're probably loosening up on this grip. I'm exaggerating here, obviously. You're going to let that gun recoil a lot more, changing follow through. What happens after the gun goes bang is just as important as what happens before it. So we want to have the same consistent grip. That's where that small bag idea works out. So, and then chamberings, you know, when you're thinking about chamberings for your first year handgun hunting, 357 will do these targets fine for, say, mule deer on down. It's capable of all these. I'll take whitetail, mule deer, and stuff at all these distances. Where things start changing is when we start going bigger critters. So when we start getting to elk, I'm going to use a 44, and I'm going to max out with a 44 at about 120 yards with a cutting-edge bullet. And the reason why I throw that out there is because they do all the same wound channel damage the cup and cores do, but they penetrate better as well. So after those petals separate, and I have articles and blogs out there to explain it completely, the base of that bullet continues to go and it exits. We've had nearly 100% exits with cutting edge bullets where we don't get that with cup and core. So 120 yards with a 44 for like elk, black bear, that kind of stuff. 357 would not be in my elk list, but say 44 would. And we go up to the bigger cartridges from there. and say we want to shoot elk at the 150-yard target or 200 yards or whatever, that's where 460 stuff starts coming in. Where does the big 500s come in? For me, they really don't. The only place they would come in, 500 S&W, 500 JRH, is up close hammers. And that'd be for really close critters, say under 100 yards, hunting thick cover, where I'm going to be in close with them, moose, grizzly type animals, that kind of stuff, maybe even elk in real close. But they just don't have a ballistic advantage as, say, the 460, 454 does. Firearms? Your production gun will do this 100-yard target all day long. You'll be the weak link there. So your Ruger, your Smith & Wesson, whichever will do this. Where things start changing up is when we start going farther, or the targets get smaller. If we're going to start varmint hunting out farther, that's where it starts changing. That's where we're at least going to need a customized gun. You'll at least need like your Smith & Wesson tuned up, or your Ruger tuned up. The biggest things that I've found there over my years of building custom guns, trigger, that's key, because it helps you with everything. Helps you. Okay, it doesn't make the gun shoot any better, but it helps you shoot better. Uniform cylinder throats, because they ream these chambers with multiple reamers, so they'll be reaming 3 chambers at once or something or whatever. It's changed through time on who does what and how. But you'll end up with different size throats in there, and that throat's important. You want all those throats to be the same. You want them all uniform, so the bullet leaves the cylinder being the same diameter as when it goes in the bore. That's key to consistency. And then crown. So your crown's the last thing that touches the bullet. It's pretty important. Make sure it's going on a straight line to the target. So trigger, uniform cylinder throats, and crown. 3 most important things to tune up if you're going to get that Smith & Wesson or Ruger tuned up. What makes it probably easier, and this is coming from a gunsmith that understands the frustrations people feel when they have to wait to get a custom gun done. You want to get out there shooting. You want to get out there practicing. You want to put the time in on the range. You want to be ready to hunt. And you don't want to wait 6 months to a year or more for your custom gun to get done. There's a few options. If you want a single action, I'm right there, Magnum Research BFR. I think they're the best shooting single action there is right now. And you can buy those in multiple chamberings, grip designs, whatever. The Bisley grips would be where I would go. They fit my hand. The plow handles fit some people's hands, but not most. When I'm looking at production custom, I call it production custom or out-of-the-box custom, whatever. I spent a lot of money between Korth and Spore. I've put a lot of tune-ups on the Smiths and stuff myself in the shop. It's tough to beat this thing. These Spore revolvers just shoot. There's too many blogs out there and too many videos for me to really go through it all now. You can just sit there and watch those and go through it. They got all the right features. What I would recommend to any handgun hunter getting started, double action grip design. The reason why I say that is there's more memory points, more reference points on the grip for you to get a consistent grip. On a single action, you basically got a smooth rounded back. Not a lot of reference points to it, and if that gun kicks, obviously exaggerating, to one side or the other in your grip when you take your grip on there under stress, under buck fever, you're going to shoot differently than when you would when it's normal and centered. A lot of people find double action grip designs a lot easier to get a grip on consistently. Use good grips. Lots of options out there. The other big advantage is being able to make it fit you. On a single action design, all the grips have to be fit to the frame. Double action, there's lots of just drop-in grips. You could try all different kinds of grips. Hogue Big Butts would be a good one to try. I think they're great for field shooting off the bag, like I showed. If you want to spend a little more, nil is absolutely fabulous. There's nothing that tops these. These just are right. Let's say the Hogue Big Butts will get you there and get you started. And I believe they're only like $60. It's a good upgrade. And they have different sizes too for different size hands, different finger grooves, all that stuff. And so do these. These have all different sizes and different designs and stuff that'll fit you too. Sights, optics. Sighting wise, iron sights are great. You can do this same stuff with iron sights. Downside is lighting. Sun in front of you, behind you, beside you, left, right, whatever. All changes the way you reference those sights, which changes the way you're going to impact the targets down range. You have to practice in all those different lighting situations to make sure you know what's going to happen as the light changes. You're probably going to have to also be willing to not take a shot when the light's not right. There's times when it could be behind you, or I find when it's to my left that it causes me the most point of aim, point of impact shift. You're just going to have to be prepared for that. You need good sights. Furman Garza for your Ruger type sights. He makes great sights for those. And then say for your Smith & Wesson designs, LPA, Spore uses LPA on their guns. Magnum Research uses an LPA rear sight, and you can put a Furman guards up front. Lots of options there. Red dots, so there's the mini reflex styles. They look real nice and trim. I think they're missing a lot of opportunities there. They're great for defensive type shooting, where we're just doing target focus and shooting. Here we're going to be focusing on our reticle or on our dot. The tube sight's a great advantage for us, and Ultra Dot just fits the bill. This is the Match Dot 2 I was using over there. Ultra Dot Gen 2 2MOA is another great one. It has no extra target turret on it. This one has a target turret. It's the only one I know of with a target turret that tracks and repeats. Yeah, I can actually dial my drops with this, and they're consistent. Tube sights help deal with the sunlight more. You have those same issues with the sunlight, kind of like you do with the iron sights, except they'll wash your dot out. The tube sight helps shield it from that, and it works great in all different types of lighting conditions, where the little mini reflexes can have some problems. And I got other blogs and videos on that as well. Pistol scopes, to me, the only place they have maybe a use is on the single shot handguns and large calibers. On a revolver, I don't see it. For 200 yards, I think a red dot does just fine. 200 yards and in, a red dot does just fine, especially up close. Pistol scope, a lot of people, I watch them at Handgun Hunters competition every year, struggling to find targets. Watch them fighting with them. Just go with a red dot, start there. I think you'll be happy. Ultra Dot's not only is it a great sight and has great glass, and it's also reasonably affordable. Great place to start. Hopefully this helped. Hopefully this helped you level out your expectations and keep more reasonable, because there's just so much BS on the web about what can be done. I mean, Facebook's the worst place for it, when guys are claiming to shoot, over the moon and hitting antelope 3 miles away and whatever else with a revolver, and frankly, it's not happening. 150 yards is a very hard target with a revolver. I don't care who you are. That's not an easy target to make under field shooting conditions. Keep your expectations reasonable. Don't exceed your limits in the field. So if you practice all year and 60 yards is all you can do, 60 yards is what you do when you go to the field. It's not all of a sudden, well, I'm going to try this 100-yard shot. That's stunt shooting. Do what you're comfortable with. Good ethical shots in the field. These guns will surprise you with what they're capable of doing. I mean, a handgun will drop game just as quickly as a rifle. I don't care what the energy table says, because energy means nothing. It does not factor in all the factors. Bang flop, meaning gun went bang, animal fell down. So many animals, I'm just forget energy, forget that stuff, forget what the internet tells you. Just go do it. You got this. Practice, reasonable expectations, and have a hell of a good hunting season this year. Give us a like and subscribe. We'll get you more content out there.